Hey there, welcome to Board Game Hot Takes, the podcast where we give our immediate reactions to the hottest board games just minutes after playing them. My name's Tim.
And this is Chris.
This is Adam.
And I'm Jen.
And today, instead of talking about a game that we just finished playing, we're going to be talking about our 2021 highlights and lowlights. We're going to be talking about some games that got us excited in 2021, as well as some games that were published in 2021 that we want to talk about. We did this list last year, talked about our 2020 highlights. You can go back and listen to that if you're interested. This year, we're going to do it a little bit different, but some of the same questions on here. Just like last year, though, we haven't played all the games in 2021, so I'm sure there are some of your favorite games that we left off this list. Don't be mad at us for it. Also, they might just be bad games, so there's that. A lot of the questions we're going to ask is just like games that were new to us in 2021, games that we played for the first time. So the first few questions we have are going to be about those, and then we're going to talk about some 2021 specifically published games. So how did you guys feel about this list this year? Did you have a hard time making it, or was it pretty easy? Chris, why don't you start?
I had a little bit of trouble with it, and part of that was because of the years of the games we were playing. On the one hand, we went back and we played some old classics from 2012 and beyond, and it was actually great fun. I think we had a terrific time, and we recorded a couple of episodes where I have some new old favorites. At the same time, we also did a couple of episodes on games that were hot on Kickstarter, but haven't delivered yet, so they can't be considered 2021 games because of that. So that made it a little bit more challenging. What about the rest of you guys?
I had an interesting time because I thought I was making a 2021 list, and then I would go and, Google the game and be like, oh my gosh, this is 2014. What the heck? But it was introduced to me as brand new. So I was able to fill up, that part of the list, the new to me list. But the 2021 part of the list was a little bit harder. I have a feeling that Adam really thought this out. So tell me about your strategy, Adam.
Oh my gosh, I did think this out. First of all, some of these questions were difficult. Tim, you're giving us some tough quiz questions here. The best component? Man, I don't know how you do that. I don't know. You got to look at pictures. First of all, the logistics of finding the answer to that are just difficult. Anyway, maybe I put way too much effort into that one.
I doubt it.
The third meeple from the left.
Yeah, the red meeple. The quantity games this year, Tim, I looked at games by number of voters just to see kind of the amount of games out there. Over 200 voters. There was about 300 games, a little bit less than 300 games. Bring it down to 100 voters, of people that have marked that they've owned that game on Board Game Geek, it goes up to like 500 games. Now, total number of games released in 2021, my guess is over 1,000. But you had some numbers on that, Tim?
I don't know how it was in 2021, but I've heard that in recent years that there's generally around 3,000 to 6,000 hobby board games released a year. So yeah, there's a lot of games played. Obviously, we didn't get through 6,000 games 2021 releases this year, so there's probably a lot that we missed, but most likely for a good reason, that most of them are probably crap.
I'm honestly shocked by that number. It's hard to believe that there's 6,000 hobby games coming out a year. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah. All right, well, cool. Let's just jump right into our list. So I'm going to start with, for us, the biggest surprise of 2021. So a game that you maybe had low expectations for, and it kind of blew those expectations out of the water. And this does not have to be a 2021 release. Chris, I'm going to start with you again. What did you think? Biggest surprise for this year?
My biggest board game surprise this year was actually an old game, Keyflower. It's a 2012 game that I was introduced to at a game night with some friends. I looked at this game when it came out of the box that night, and I thought, I'm going to hate everything about this game. It was a bunch of tiles with little hexagonal resource tokens and just this gigantic flour sack full of meeples. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to be miserable. But I played the game, and I actually really quite enjoyed it. I know we throw the word elegant around a lot of times in this show, but this was a truly elegant game. And then when I discovered that it was on BGA with a really nice interface and a very easy way to play any game, I played a bunch more games of it, and then we did our episode on it. Now it is actually one of my new favorites. I love that game, but I had zero expectations about it. So it's got to be Keyflower as my number one biggest board game surprise this year. One thing that I did want to mention as a quick note, one of my other big surprises, and Tim, I hope you will appreciate this, one of them is Gaia Project. I have talked so much smack about Gaia Project in the past that it's, you'd think it owed me money or something. But now that I've played it a few more times, and I played it on BGA where a lot of the rules are being enforced for you rather than having to sit there with the rule book and go back over and over again, it's not my favorite game, but I've actually come to enjoy playing it occasionally, and it's a nice surprise because I know it's a game that you really like too, and so it's fun to be able to play with someone who's passionate about it.
Mission accomplished. I can retire now because Chris now likes Gaia Project, so I don't have to play any more games. No, that's interesting, Chris. I've loved the fact that because of Board Game Arena, I've gotten to play a lot of Gaia Project lately, and I'm glad that you actually sent me an invite a couple days ago to play a game with you. I do think that platform makes that game so much easier to play. Like I've been playing it a lot and getting some decent scores and getting kind of competitive with it. And then I taught it to somebody new that I played with this week, and I got crushed. I mean, I didn't get crushed. I won, but it was like I had under 100 points on that game, which I haven't had for weeks. And it's just because you have to think through, like, on Board Game Arena, it tells you what options you have that turn.
Hold on, time out.
No, we're not going to move on yet.
Jen caught this too. Jen totally caught this too. It went from, well, I didn't get that crushed. I actually won. How did that flip flop so quickly in there?
It was a first time play, and I'm just saying that I just did worse than I thought I was going to. He got 75 points, I got 99 points. I won't name the person, but no, I mean, I'm just saying that, like, playing it in person where you have to remember all the options you have, it is a little bit harder to think through strategically and do well at it. Had a great time playing it in person, but yeah, BGA does make it easier to play and a little bit easier to, kind of get through the rules without having to remember all those things. Love that game though.
That's interesting, Tim, is that you lose how I win. Like, I'm like, man, I had a solid third place finish, right? And you're like, yeah, I got totally crushed when I won. And so it's really interesting. I didn't see that coming. That analogy seems flip-flopped in some way, shape, or form.
I guess I'm always just playing against myself. All right. Well, Adam, what about you? What was your biggest surprise for 2021?
My biggest surprise for 2021 was a little card game we played at TimCon called Shamans. I had low expectations of this game. I was a little bit worried, had some social deduction in there, but we dealt it out. I stumbled through the rules and we started playing. And oh man, the feeling I got from that game, the four of us there, we realized kind of the whole, someone is bad and trying to win, and how can we tell what's going on here? And the excitement and kind of the crescendo just grew and grew and grew as we were playing that game. And by the end of it, I had so much fun. Steve was yelling at me, you're the shadow. I know you're the shadow. I'm like, no, Steve, I'm not. I promise it's not me. And then, I reveal this card that proves that I'm not the shadow. And Steve goes, oh well, whoops. Just such a good time playing that game at TimCon. And the moments it generated, I was not expecting any of those. So Shamans is my surprise of 2021.
I'm glad you threw that one in there, Adam, because that one was on my short list for biggest surprise also. It was a game like Keyflower that I fully intended to hate. I don't love trick-taking games, nor do I like social deduction games, but this one combined them in this really cool way. We play it in my family now. My son loves playing it. He always wants to, trick anybody and kill everybody, but it's such a great game. So much fun.
That's great.
Yeah, that was actually on my short list as well. I was going to mention it as a runner-up for me because I had no real expectations on the game, but from the moment you take it out of the box, the production is gorgeous and the gameplay is so much fun. And I don't like hidden trader games. I'm terrible at them, as you guys saw that night that we played it, and I still had a fun time playing it. So
I think you got crushed and you only won by like 2 or 3 points that game. It was awesome.
Not true. I think I lost all those games, but yeah, it was fun. That's a great game. Great choice. So Jen, what about you? Any big surprises for 2021?
Yeah, my 2021 surprise is a 2014 apparently game, which I didn't know. I thought it was brand new. I was super excited about it. It's Camel Up. It was a game that Tim introduced to Danielle and I over 4th of July weekend. It seemed like a really quick learn, and it was. Chris and Adam, have you ever played Camel Up?
I have not.
I have never even heard of it.
It's basically just like you're betting on camels, right? It's like a betting game. It's a dice rolling game. It's a little bit of a bluffing game. And so all that happens is these camels race around this pyramid, and you get to get points by rolling the dice, by putting your token down and getting a point if your camel lands on it, and then by betting on which camel's going to win the leg, which camel's going to win and lose the entire race itself. And so that's like the entire game. I learned it over eating. I remember I was eating dinner over this like felt table and freaking Tim out because I was actually eating food over his game table and he's teaching the game. And I'm like, oh my gosh, do I get a handicap on this one? Because I'm kind of paying attention. But it was just really, really fun. And the components are cute and the camels go forward and they go back. And you want to be the first one to throw down because if you're not the first one, you can't like really win big. But then someone will throw down and everyone starts throwing down and I don't know. It's a little bit of giggles. It's interaction. It's definitely mindless, but there's the end game bonus component to it. But at the same time, you have to pay attention as it's going and just kind of go with your gut. It's fun. I looked at it. The table is neat. It has like a little palm tree on it. It gets you the ambiance. I liked it. I had a really fun time playing it. We took it out a lot over the course of the summer, and then there was friends in town for Thanksgiving. Took it out again. Again, it's great fun with 3, 4, 5 people.
Yeah, it plays up to 6, and I got the 2018 second edition of it, so it's got a much upgraded production, and I was kind of surprised by this. This was one of several games this year that I bought on Game Nerds just to fill my order and get to $75 so I could get the free shipping. And most of them ended up selling off. Like, there were several games that I just threw in the order and I was like, I kind of want to try this game, so I'll give it a shot. And most of those left. But this one, everybody's had fun playing it. It's very light, it's silly, but it's always a fun time when it's out on the table. So that was a fun one.
Yeah, Jen, I've never heard of that one. Well, I've heard of it, but I've never thought to actually play it or had the opportunity. And hearing you talk about that makes me want to try it so bad. That was amazing.
Oh, just wait.
It is a fun game, Adam. I think you would actually you dig it. It kind of does all the things that, like, Kibitos, that we wanted a racing game to be, and this kind of does that. And you're not racing yourself. Everybody's betting on all the camels, but it's kind of about the risk of like, ooh, that camel's ahead now. Is it going to stay ahead? Well, I want to bet early, like Jen said. So there's definitely a chance to it, and every time it's an assessment of like, okay, now no other camel can get ahead, so now's the right time to bet. But if you wait that long, you probably lost the best bets on it. So sometimes you just have to take a risk and bet on something, bet on the long shot.
And it's obviously a really lightweight game. There's not a lot of learning components to it. But when you think about it, you're like, oh man, how am I, okay, this could be an intro gamers game, but how am I going to explain to them we're going to have these random camels run around this pyramid, and then you have to roll the dice out of the pyramid, and there's the palm trees. I don't know if I'd take this one out of the box for a newbie or not, but it's definitely a fun time.
Is it a family game? I'm taking from Jen's last comments that it's not exactly a family game.
No, it is, but like she said, it's a little weird and it's a little hard to explain. But I've taught it to non-gamers easily, and it's been a big hit. I don't think we ever played it with any of our kids yet, but I think they could have picked it up pretty easily. All right, cool. So my biggest surprise for 2021 is Smartphone Inc.
That's awesome.
So Smartphone Inc. is a game that I wanted to hate. I wanted to hate this game because it's such a dry, modern theme to it. Like, I don't want to make cell phones and sell cell phones. That's the most boring economic theme I can think of. And when I heard about this game, I assumed it was kind of a mid-heavyweight, economic, mathy game that you're just like working on spreadsheets. I thought this was going to be an 18xx or a container of, modern production and running factories. And this game is the opposite of that. It's a light, breezy, fun decisions, runs quickly, and it's just been a fun blast to play every time I played it. There are a lot of other games that I liked more in 2021, but there are none that took me by surprise as much as Smartphone Inc. And every single time I've played it, I've liked it more than the previous time. So this is a great game. Completely knocked my socks off.
I am so excited to hear you say that, Tim. I remember I brought it out, and you're still kind of lukewarm on it because of the production and the poor experience in college with a college project. And it is. It's just a great game that gets better and better the more you play it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and it wasn't the production that turned me off. It was the theme. But the production is actually fantastic. I think that the production is super fun, and it's part of what makes brings the charm in that game. Now, I had a couple runners up, and these are two games that I just had to mention because they weren't necessarily big surprises. I didn't have big expectations one way or the other, but they've surprised me that they've kind of lived rent-free in my head for the last several months because I just keep thinking about them, even though they weren't games I had any expectation on. One was Shamans, which Adam mentioned already. A game that I just constantly wish I could play again. I want to get the group together again and just sit down and play it and try it again. And that shocked me because I didn't expect to think much about it. The other was The Expanse. The Expanse, for one thing, is one of the ugliest games that's ever been put on a table. And it's still terrible looking. But I had a blast playing it. It's super simple rule set, super quick to play. And I just had a really fun time with that little area control kind of minor economic game. And then I started reading the Expanse novel since we played the game. I think I just wanted to kind of understand a little bit more what it's about. And now I'm totally hooked into that world. I'm into the third novel right now and excited to keep moving through it. And so, that game I've been thinking about it a lot, and I would love to get that to the table again.
Also incredibly excited to hear you mention that one. Tim. I love that game too, and hear how you explored the books now too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's talk about our biggest disappointment. This is a little bit of a sadder note because, of course, we want to love all the games that we play, but sometimes we just have really high expectations or even moderate expectations for a game, and then they let us down. For me, I had a number of games that I played this year that I didn't like at all, but there was just one game that really let me down that I had high expectations for. But I'll get to that in a minute. Chris, why don't you start us off? What was your biggest disappointment for 2021?
Well, 2021 was a year of high highs and low lows. I felt like there was a lot of love and there was a lot of hate. So this was a tough one because there were quite a few that I found myself pretty disappointed in. But I gotta say the winner for that one is Windward. That's a game that caught my attention. It struck me as interesting because the picture on the box looked cool. And then I went and looked at it on BGG, read a little bit about it, watched a rules video, and then proposed it to you guys as a game for our game night and for a review. And we ended up doing that. And everything about this game just struck me as amazing. It's one of the nicest base level productions I've ever seen in any game. And the theme is super cool. It's about basically space whalers on another planet in these flying sailing ships going after these big leviathans in the sky. And it looks so cool. The playboard is incredibly cool. It has this really interesting mechanism where the wind changes each turn. And because you're in a sailing ship, you have to take the wind direction into consideration when you're moving. And so all of this stuff just looked so amazing. It sounded so amazing. And then we played it, and I just felt incredibly let down. It was the opposite of elegant. It just, everything felt clunky, and even things that I thought were going to be really good, like when I heard the rules or when I heard about a mechanism, I thought they'd be very interesting to play, just ended up being not that interesting and ended up being much more frustrating and clunky than I could have ever expected. That said, I thought enough, even after that first game, of the potential for this, that I went out and I bought the game after playing it online, thinking, this has got to be better than what I gave it credit for before. And after 3 or 4 more games of it, I've realized that it just is not. It's a game that probably could be fixed with a better rule set. I could probably come up with some house rules that would fix some of those little issues. But ultimately, it was just a sad disappointment that I really wish that I could love.
Sorry to hear that, Chris. I know you had high expectations for it and wanted to really love that game. So I agree with you. It is a disappointment to exist on this planet, but I'm sorry that you felt that way.
Chris, I would say that's interesting because I think after that initial play, I felt the same as you. I kind of wanted to explore it more, and I was thinking about, getting another game or two in to see if there was anything really there. But then to hear that you actually went and did that, and it was still disappointed, I'm glad you had to go through that and not me.
Well, and the funny thing is, I still have it. I'm not going to sell it because I still feel like there's going to come a time when I'm going to come back to that, and I'm going to give it another try, and it's going to click. And Jen's shaking her head, and you're probably right, but I just feel like this is one that there's so much here that I want to like about it that I can't quite give up, but I'm so sad that it's putting me through this. One quick runner-up, I have to throw in AuZtralia. The production was not anything particularly special. It's lots of chits, but oh my God, what an amazing theme for a game. 19 or 1870s Australia, an economic game with Cthulhu and the Great Old Ones. Oh my God, that's incredible. What an amazing idea. And it was a well-received game. So it was not even like we were going into something that was, kind of unknown. So I thought, how could we go wrong with this? Unfortunately, we did. And you guys heard my commentary on that in our episode. Go back and listen to it. You'll hear just how disappointed I was in that one.
AuZtralia was set in during World War I era, so it's actually 1920s. But
oh yeah,
okay. I think that's a really cool game, and I understand your disappointment. You had different expectations that I did, but it is a weird game, and I can see any one play of it going really sideways and not being fun, and then other plays being really fun. So I think we just hit a rough play there. All right, Adam, what about you? Biggest disappointment? Make us sad.
Okay, there was a couple that I had on my list here, mostly because of the way they were spoken about by you guys and the hype that came along with that and raising my expectation. One of those was Cerebria, another game that we played at TimCon and had very high hopes for. And after playing it, it just kind of fell mediocre. I was hoping for this kind of teamwork thing going on, these secret plans, we're going to be able to do this and do that. But it didn't come out like that. It was just like, we're doing the same things. We're managing the same exact cards, really. We're not really doing anything separate. We're just like the coach of this side. And I was hoping for more of a synergistic coming together and not just a management of one side. I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever, but came away disappointed from Cerebria.
Yeah, and I kind of felt the same way on that play because I did talk it up because I had a really great first team play with that. And after that play, I'm like, I kind of just want to play 1 versus 1. I think that this suffers from the same things a lot of co-op games do, and it's going to depend on the players and it's going to depend on the situation. But I'd much rather be making the decisions for a whole side on my own, and I think it'll be better in that way.
Have you played it since, and how did it go?
I haven't. I still have it in my collection, and I still intend to play it some more. I definitely want to get some solo plays of it in, and I'd love to. When somebody wants to take a stab at a heavy, weird, thinky game, then I hope to teach it and play a one-on-one with it and see how it goes there. And Jen's shaking her head on that note.
Another one that had me a little disappointed after the high praise and it was so well spoken about by you guys was Outlive.
I knew that had to be it. Yeah.
Another game we played at TimCon. And I think a lot went into this. This is one I would definitely go back to and try it again, much like Chris's relationship with Windward. It was at the end of a long weekend. My brain was getting pretty burny, and this is a game where you're always in desperation mode, just barely hanging on to survive. And if you don't get all this stuff you need, some of your guys, some of your people are going to die off. And that's a feeling that's just a little too rough for me. And there's a few games that give me that feeling, and this one was doing it in spades on a tired brain after a long weekend. So Outlive is one I'd try again, but definitely gave me some disappointments.
I totally get what you're saying there, Adam, but it still breaks my heart.
I've never seen the host of a board game podcast look more depressed playing a board game in my life than watching Adam play that game. That said, I still love that game, so don't listen to Adam. Go check it out. It's worth the hype, and it's a great game. Jen, what about you? Any disappointments for 2021?
My biggest board game disappointment was easy. We did record an episode on it sometime mid last year. It feels like 3 years ago, sometime I think in May. It's Rajas of the Ganges, period. Not Dice Charmers, the full game. I love Rajas of the Ganges, the Dice Charmers, so much. We played that game and it just hit on all levels. Dopamine hits everywhere. The combos. It's a fun game. We brought it out, I think, like 2 weeks ago was the last time we played it. But we brought out Rajas of the Ganges and I couldn't follow along, and I kind of got it halfway through, and I don't even know what my review on it was because I think I had to digest it and later, and I was like, I know if you offered that game in person now, my answer would be like, immediately no. So that would be how I feel about it, and so that feels like a disappointment, having something that's so similar lead up to that moment, have it be a reason that we played that, and then be like, wah, wah. So that in a nutshell, wah, wah, is how I feel about that.
So Jen, since you initially played, this game is like sunken even lower than that initial impression. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Oh,
so
wow.
Unlike you and Chris, who are going to keep the random board game in the closet, like you're going to keep your bell-bottom pants and like your hypercolor shirt, had it been my game, it would have been on like the shelf at the, the White Dove thrift store on the corner and like that. So
wow.
That's the first reference I've heard to hypercolor since 1993, I think.
I just gave myself a handprint and it went from like dark pink to light pink. It's awesome.
Nice. Yeah, well, I'm sorry to hear that because honestly, if you had liked it, I would have that game in my collection because I love it. It is still one of my favorite. It's probably going to be in my top 20 games of all time this year. I've had a chance to play it more since that review, and I still love it. And I think it was a bad experience on Yucatan. I think I'm really disappointed that happened and that you didn't learn to play with me in person. But, that's life. So there's plenty of other games out there. All right. Like, as I mentioned, I played some bad games this year, but I only had one game that I really had high expectations for that really, really let me down. And that was Path of Light and Shadow. This is a game that Adam used to have in his collection, and I was always really interested in it. So when he said that he was selling some games and that was one of them, I immediately said, yes, I want to play this game so bad. And from the moment I took it out of the box and started reading the rules, I was almost put to sleep by it. I just wasn't having fun with the game at all. But I went through it, I learned the rules, and I said, this has got to be better with two people sitting at the table playing it. So Adam came out for a weekend, and this is one of the games that I wanted to get played. and we played it, and it was just the most dull, uninteresting experience. Like, I love deck building. I love deck building and how it interacts with boards, and with a full board game. And I thought deck building with all these elements, and you can upgrade your cities, and you can go out and do area control with it. And I just thought it was going to be fun, and it was just an exercise of like, this is the math I have to do this turn, and this is what I can do with these numbers, and I'm randomly going to get some other cards in my deck, and it was all just such a letdown for me. So Path of Light and Shadow was my biggest board game disappointment this year. I have one more to mention though, and I feel a little bad mentioning this because it's a game that I actually do like, but I had really high expectations for this game, and that's Obsession. Obsession is a game that I just really, really wanted to love, and I thought it was going to hit for me, and I like a lot about it, and I want to go back and play it again. So this is not a bad game at all, but it's just a game that disappointed me a little bit. It didn't quite hit the way that I wanted to. So I'd be happy to play it again. I've heard some people say that a lot of the criticism I had on a review of it is fixed in the upstairs downstairs expansion. So I'd love to try that maybe and see if it hits a little bit better for me. But yeah, that was probably the one that I was the most excited about. I was excited to get you guys to play it. And Chris, I know you had a great experience with it, and you ended up purchasing it. But for me, it just wasn't quite what I was hoping for.
I feel like my level of enthusiasm for the game kind of makes up for your disappointment in the game, at least in the the cosmic balance of things.
Yeah, that's right. Again, good game, just didn't hit my expectations. All right, so let's talk about, so this is kind of be the highlight for 2021. This will bring us up a notch here. Our best new to us game for 2021. So these are not the games that were published in 2021, but these are games that we played for the first time in 2021, and we think that these are the best games that we played this year. So Chris, start us off. What was the best game you played in 2021?
It was a tough one. There was some really good games in there, but my number one new to me game in 2021 has got to be Tzolk'in, the Mayan calendar. It felt to me a lot like the flip side of Windward. In Windward, I had these huge expectations, played the first game of it, wasn't quite sure what I thought. I didn't hate it, but I wasn't quite sure what I thought. But I was left with a generally negative feeling that I felt like I need to go back and explore it some more to really know if that negative feeling is justified or is it going to flip to the other side. Tzolk'in, I felt the exact opposite. It was going to flip one way or the other, and I kind of felt like it was going to flip to the good side. And in both of these cases, my expectation came true. Windward flipped to the bad side, Tzolk'in flipped to the good side. And there's just so much to like about this game. It sounds kind of bizarre. I mean, like a strange idea for a game, but it's based around the Mayan calendar, which is quite incredible. But the game itself, the board you play on, for anybody who has not played it or listened to our review of it, there are it's like 5 gigantic gears that you put your tokens on, and they rotate, they interact with each other, these gears, it's like gears do. When you pull a character off, you get to take the benefit of whatever that spot is. So you get to do this really neat drill of figuring out where all the right things are going to be to set them off so you can have this big epic turn, it's sort of like the thing that Adam loves, the big epic turn when you do all this stuff, it all comes home to roost, and there's all this excitement, and this game has that in spades. It's just a delicious game. I have come to love it, especially now with BGA, with the implementation there. I truly love this game because it's so easy to play as well and not have to worry about the setup. I think I'm actually going to buy a copy of it. I don't know if I'll get it played, but I think I want to own this one just for the occasions when I might actually be able to get that one out on the table. So Tzolk'in, the Mayan calendar, is my best new to me game of 2021.
That's a great pick, Chris, and you're going to hear that mentioned on my list upcoming. And I will just say that I think the in-person, I would rather play that one in person. That's one of those few games that is just going to be better in person, I think, even than on Board Game Arena. So great pick. All right, cool. Adam, what about you? What was the best game that you played that was new to you in 2021?
The best new to me game in 2021 was Smartphone Inc. I can't say enough about this game that Tim hasn't already said. It's a 2018 game by Ivan Lashin, and it's thrilling. The way you go from your little, I don't know, they look like those little Game Boys or something, tablets, you're organizing them, lining them up, your little actions are left exposed. The round, the way it flows, 1 through 8, boom, next round, 5 rounds later, you're all done, you've made it, it's just beautiful. Such a fun game. So many cool things to do, so simple to understand and to grasp, but so deep, all the different things you can do. From the production, even the theme, I like it. It has some stuff that's kind of nostalgic for me now, the little old cell phone symbols. Smartphone Inc., number one new to me game, 2021.
I think we all had a really good experience with that one because I think all of us had kind of that same feeling of low expectation and great payoff. But Jen, have you ever played this game?
I haven't played this game, but I mean, and now that you have now endorsed it as well, that's 3 out of 3, and so I feel like it's a no-brainer at this point in time.
Yeah, Steve loved it as well, and I think you and Danielle would actually like it. It's just, as much as I was surprised by it, I don't know that I want to own it. So unless somebody else buys it around here, you probably won't get a chance to play it. It is a great game, though.
Somebody else buys it around here as he puts it out into the universe. Who could he be talking to right now?
Jen, I think you would love this one. It won't disappoint. It's pretty. The colors, the cubes that they use are just sparkling. They look like little jewels. It's just, I don't know. It's so pretty. It's so fun. The board is all slotted, so all these cubes fit in there all nice. I know nobody cares about that. I care about that. It's so pleasant to get a hold of. I think you'd love this one.
Yeah, it is the only full game board that is dual layered. So like everything that you put out on the game board actually has like little slots that it fits into, and that's pretty awesome.
I care about that too. A lot. It's wonderful.
All right, Jen, what was your favorite game that you played in 2021 that was new to you?
The best new to me game of 2021 was Isle of Cats. And I'm actually not sure. Again, your show of hands. Adam and Chris, have you guys played this one yet?
Nope.
Yeah, so I have been lobbying to get this one on the show. I'm like, we have to play Isle of Cats, but I think there's some sort of obstacle to playing it online right now.
Yeah, the only reason that we haven't played it yet is because it's in alpha on Board Game Arena, so once it moves to beta, then I think we'll do an episode on it, because it'll be much easier to play there than it would be on Tabletop Simulator or Tabletopia or something like that. So that's the only thing that's holding us back right now.
So I'll be super brief then, because I hope to have like an awesome discussion about this game with all 4 of us or 5 of us, whoever's hanging out at the time. A family strategy game, but I think it's a little bit heavy for my family, but for my family of Danielle and Tim and myself, it's really great. You're rescuing cats from like an evil lord of some sort. I haven't quite figured that out. You're putting cats on a boat. That's the piece that you have to know about. Cats have to go on the boat, and there's fish involved. I like the tile placement, and they aren't hex tiles, which is big for me, right? I am placing tiles that actually aren't hexes that I'm saying I like this tile placement. The card drafting at the beginning is really unique. I can't think of another game that I've played in that way, is where, you start with, I think it's 9 cards, and you pick one, and then you pass them, and you pick one, and you pass them, and at the end you have these 9 cards that you can either take or leave, and then there's points that you only know about that you're aiming for. There's endgame points that the whole group gets to see, and I really like it. Tim did eventually get some upgraded components, and my big piece of feedback is that instead of you can have 1 fish and you can have 5 fish. But these components, whether they're the downgraded components or the upgraded components, looks like 3 fish. And so that is my hefty piece of feedback for whoever's making both the regular components as well as the pieces that you pay $1 billion for. I'd be happy to draw a new design for these people if they want me to. Like, I'm super artsy, and by super artsy, not artsy at all, but I still think I can identify 5 fish in this thing. Have I talked about the 5 fish enough? Do I need to keep going? I can keep talking.
Why don't we save it for the review, Jen?
I've been asking for this one for a while now, so I can't wait till it actually can become a reality. Now understanding why it can't, and I will sit here and wait probably just as impatiently, even knowing why.
Yeah, that's great, Jen. I'm glad you love that one so much. I Love Cats is a great one. This is another one of those games that I always wanted to try it, and I had to fill in an order on Game Nerd, so I added this one as the last item to get the free shipping. And I really loved it. It's been a big hit for Jen. My wife is not quite as big of a fan of it, so I'm glad that Jen's liked it because it's gotten a lot of plays around here. But I think it's a really clever game. It's thinky enough to really make you have to work towards the strategy. It's fun use of, the kind of the tetrominoes.
They're called Catronimos in this one?
Tetromino, thank you.
Oh, I mean, that kind of humor is going to make me catatonic.
It's a great production and a really clever game, and it has kind of the Terraforming Mars mode of that you can draft these cards, but any that you keep you have to pay for before you get to use them. So you kind of have to forward plan and decide, are they worth it for me investing in right now? It's a really fun, clever game. So I'm excited to play this one again with you all and review it and see what you guys have to think about it. But I'm always happy to go back to I love cats. I love dogs too, but I love cats. So my best new to me game in 2021 is Tzolk'in, the Mayan calendar, which Chris already talked about quite a bit. This is a game that I always had a lot of interest in. It looked interesting, but I honestly felt like this seems like a gimmick. That's the only reason people like it. It's clever. This game is a blast. It's streamlined. It's fun. And I'm going to be buying this one. Jen, you're going to be playing this one with me because it honestly is fairly simple. There's a little bit of a weirdness to the learning curve, I think. but I think I can teach this one really well, and it's very streamlined, and I think you and Danielle will have a fun time with it. And this is the type of game that is so straightforward that I think you can sit there and have a conversation while you're playing it, because you're kind of just like, I'm going to take my move and then just wait for things to come around, and then maybe I take another simple move. I don't know. It's just it's one of these games that are just way more streamlined. It's just like, why aren't more games like this? It's kind of an expectation that why would I play a game that takes me like 15 minutes to get through a turn and have to reference back to the rule book when I could play this game that is just so much simpler and more fun. So yeah, Tzolk'in blew me away. Really excited about it. I've had a chance to play a couple other games by Daniel Tashini, who is the designer of Tzolk'in, Teotihuacan, and Tekenu, which I just talked about a couple weeks ago now. And Tzolk'in is by far, I feel like they just are keep adding layers and layers on, but his design and the designers he's working with, their designs are all really brilliant, but this one is just so streamlined that makes it, I think, pretty special while still being a fun, strategic game to play. So that was my number one. I have to mention just one more though, and this is a 2020 release, and this is Paladins of the West Kingdom. And I've only had a chance to play this solo so far, but this game is just so much fun, and it's just stuck in my head all the time, and I'm just waiting for the right opportunity to play it. I've been trying to push it onto game night so that we can review it, and every time Adam's like, I'm not interested, so it hasn't gotten played. I don't think Jen or Danielle are gonna want to go through the rules burden of this game, but it's a blast, and it just makes me want to play more of Garphill games, other East-West, series more. It's a super fun. So I really hope that I'm going to try to push these guys this year. I hope we get to play this and actually get a full review of it and hear what you guys all think of it, because this game is just better and better every time I play it.
Tim, I'm sorry I'm ignoring your calls. I will happily play this one. Paladins of the West Kingdom, let's do it. Let's get it done, man. Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Excellent. See? I just had to barter to Adam's good side on the right night, and it worked perfectly. All right, cool. So now we're going to talk about some things that actually did come out in 2021 that really got us excited. The first is the best board game component in 2021. So Chris, kick us off. You're a production guy. You love big components. You love amazing productions. What really hit with you in 2021?
Well, what made this one tough, it's the way you pose the question, best component. Because it's pretty easy to say a game has a great production or the game has great art. Figuring out what the one special component makes this game great, or which is the best component, I mean, that's a little bit different. And I actually thought it was a really interesting thought exercise, because you normally think about games as a cohesive production, not so much having one individual piece. And so it was really it was fun to think through that. And so I tried to think of what piece brought the most to a game just by itself. And I was actually surprised at my answer on this one. It's a game that I just got. It's Great Wall by Awaken Realms. And it is the actual Great Wall in that game. Normally, I don't love cardboard pieces. I don't like the chintzy feel of them. I don't like the look of them. They just end up looking kind of unexciting and unimpressive. But in this game, you have these three-dimensional, heavy-duty cardboard walls that create the Great Wall of China, and you get 3 levels that you can build. And by the time you get to that 3rd level, you have created such a table presence with those wall segments that it absolutely blows me away. Now, I've only played this game solo, so I was able to kind of throw up as many wall segments as I wanted to, even if I didn't really earn them. And I was doing that just because I wanted to see those things on the table. Again, not the kind of thing I would normally love, but this turned a 2D board game, other than some beautiful minis, into a full 3D table experience. And I was blown away by that.
Chris, is Great Wall actually considered a 2021 release, or did you actually get yours in 2022?
I didn't get mine until 2022, but it was a 2021 release. Speaking of which, my runner-up here, and this really should have been my number one, except that I haven't gotten it yet, and I don't feel like I can really comment on a component until I've actually had my hands on it. It should be the Dark Tower from Return to Dark Tower. I mean, my goodness, this thing is like a 2-foot tall plastic 8-bit sound throwing skulls at you, computerized. There's nothing not to love about that. I'm sure that I'm going to be absolutely blown away by it, but I haven't touched it yet. In reality, now that I've said that, it probably means I'm going to be tremendously disappointed in it. But I feel like that should have been my number one, but I couldn't in good conscience.
One reason you might not want to list it is, it's like a Kickstarter that's, I don't know, 8 months overdue. So that's one reason that it doesn't fit for your best component. But, you can talk about it in 2022 if you want to.
Keep an open mind, Tim.
Well, Chris, I'm actually a little surprised because I thought I'd have a crossover with you here. So we'll see if you just forgot about the component I'm going to talk about. Adam, what about you? Any board game components on a 2021 game that really stands out to you?
So I was thinking about a few of them. I was thinking about Fossilis with the sand and the map there and the bones that you dig in. But I knew Tim would audit me and figure out that was a 2020 game. So I didn't pick that one. And then Chris brought up the point, narrowing it down to a single component. I was thinking about the Ankh minis. I looked at some of the painted up minis on Board Game Geek, and not only the paint look amazing, the minis themselves, the detail that are there. But that's not just one component, it's the whole series of components. So the one component from 2021 that does it for me, that neoprene map from Oath. You roll that thing out, the colors are so vibrant. It's just a brilliant looking map. I know I've been kind of disparaging about Kyle Farron's artwork, but he nailed this map. It's beautiful. It's thought provoking. That piece alone is going to draw people to the game and be like, what happens on this thing? This is amazing. So the Oath map is the 2021 component for me.
Wow, Adam, that is a surprise and a shock to me. It's awesome. It's a beautiful, beautiful mat, an awesome component. I'm just surprised that you brought up Oath because it didn't seem like it was a game that really resonated with you this year in the idea of getting it to the table. But that's cool.
And that's the thing. It doesn't necessarily resonate with me, but I mean, you look at that production, you look at the map. There's no arguing that game is just absolutely gorgeous.
But in reality, I guess you don't have to have a great game to have a great component, right?
Yeah, that's right. All right, cool. Well, I apologize, guys, that I said best board game component because I was actually thinking of components, whatever
Tim.
Part of the production. But I think you guys are gonna laugh actually at my favorite board game component of 2021. I think you're gonna make fun of me for this, but hear me out here. My favorite board game components of 2021 are the 2 sheets of paper from Hadrian's Wall that you use for this roll and write game.
I'm skeptical, Tim. How are you going to convince me that this is the best component?
Okay, well, so when you get this box of Hadrian's Wall, which is a roll and write game, it is one of the heaviest board game boxes I own. And this is not a big box. It's like an 8x8 box. It's a typical Garphill Games box. But it's so heavy, you take off the lid on the box. It's one little punch board of a couple little player boards that come out, pretty minor, a few little baggies of wooden components, like wooden meeples, and then a couple little stacks of cards. And everything else in that box are 2 huge stacks of paper. And each of the pieces of paper is 8x8. So when you play a game, you take off 2 8x8 pieces of paper and put them next to each other. And that is the roll and write game. And these games are loaded with little check boxes, little icons, everything all over them, and they're beautiful. They're a thing of beauty. The user experience is so straightforward. I literally I was taught that game about 5 or 6 months ago, and I liked it a lot. Pretty easy teach. Someone taught this to me. A lot simpler than I thought it was going to be. But then I bought the game and just got it last week, and I took it out of the box and I set it up and I read the rule book, and I learned the game out of the rule book in about 3 minutes. And there's like 100 icons on this thing, but they're so easy to understand. I just love it. I think just having those 2 sheets of paper in front of me makes me so happy. And the fact that they made this amazing production, this amazing game that you can experience with 2 little sheets of paper, I think that's just an amazing component. So did I convince you, Adam?
I'm looking at it, Tim. They are freaking beautiful. Holy cow. Do you...
Right.
Is it like a dry erase thing or like a wet erase where you use a little marker?
No, it's 2 huge tablets of paper. So every time you play a game, or every player gets 1 sheet off one tablet and 1 sheet off the other tablet. And you have 2 side-by-side sheets of paper. Of course, you could laminate them and use dry erase markers on them.
I'm looking... It's beautiful, Tim. Holy cow. I want to play this right now. This is awesome.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
There's so many combos, man. No joke. every other turn you take an action, boom, a combo. And there's so many things going on the board, but they're very intuitive. There's so many different paths you can pursue, and I've only had a couple plays of it. I don't know how well this game is going to hold up. I feel like it could end up in a cycle where I feel like I'm doing the same things every game, but so far I don't care. I'm just having a blast playing it. I can't wait to pull it out and play it again. So, unique way to just use a couple sheets of paper, and Chris is shaking his head.
I just looked at it for the first time. Are you guys insane? This thing looks like as much fun as an Excel spreadsheet.
Like the prettiest Excel spreadsheet you've ever seen, man.
I want to be able to sprinkle pixie dust on my eyes to see what you guys are seeing here. I mean, I don't get it.
This is more like an Excel treat, not an Excel sheet. It's an Excel treat. Come on, this is beautiful.
So think of a game like Welcome to, right, where you flip over some cards and then that's what actions you can take on your sheet. In this one, what happens at the beginning of the round, everybody flips over a card and you get different colored meeples. Like those are what are available to you. And then with those meeples, you basically on the sheet, instead of rolling a dice to get a resource, you just discard that meeple and then you can take an action that meeple gives you. And then you would check off a thing on your box, but that might give you another meeple, or it might give you a resource, or it might open up another option for you. And so it's just, instead of this sheet of cards or these dice that you're rolling, you get these random kind of resources to spend each round. And then at the end of the round, there's like an attack phase. That's what Hadrian's Wall is. This is about the Roman Empire building a wall across Britannia way back when. I don't know what year it was, but basically you're one of the generals in charge of building this wall. So essentially what's going to happen is there's going to be attack on the wall, and if you haven't built the right segments of the wall, then the attack can come through and you're going to get negative points for that. And there's this whole economy you're building here. It's just, there's so many things going on here, and it's so much fun to me.
So Chris, I hear you saying not such nice things about this beautiful sheet. How is this so different from the Welcome to sheet, where it's just a grid of like 3 rows and a bunch of stuff? It's like advanced Welcome to. How is this different from that, man?
Oh, it's absolutely different in every way. I mean, I can't even, where should I begin? I mean, the whole idea of Welcome to, it's so streamlined and so pretty and so evocative of the period. It is a very simple grid, but it's a beautiful, very simple grid. And it has a beautiful, very simple rule set that's laid out in columns below there that look nice, has easy symbology, and are terrific. Now, having said all that, I mean, we're talking about a component here. So maybe this game the Hadrian's Wall is great, but we're talking about the component piece, and I just can't even imagine. I can't imagine. I'm appalled.
Chris, you don't deserve Hadrian's Wall. So let me talk about a couple runners up that I had to mention here. One was the Terraforming Mars big box that came out in 2021, and all of the minis that came in there. And I think for kind of an upgraded component that came from the publisher of a game, this was absolutely adds to the experience of Terraforming Mars and makes one of my favorite games even better. So I had to mention the Terraforming Mars big box. Fantastic set of components. I love the inserts in that game. I love the metal cubes, and I love the plastic minis that you can use now. And then the last one I want to mention really quickly is that Red Rising introduced into a modern board game foil cards. Something that from my old Magic the Gathering collectible card game days just really made the play experience special. And I love that Stonemaier Games brought that back with Red Rising, and I'd love to see more of that. I'll pay $5, $10 extra for production if they are going to add some foil into the playing cards, which are such a basic part of the board game experience for many of us. So had to mention that one as well.
You make such a good point with the foil, Tim. It's beautiful. Why don't they do that in more card games, man? That's just a nice touch that adds this sparkle and glimmer and attraction for the human psyche, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. So let's get into the number one big award this year, the best game of 2021, the best game that was published in 2021 that you got to play this year. I can't wait to talk about this game, but Chris, I'm going to let you start it off.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that we might have a little bit of a logjam here on this one, because I can't imagine at least somebody else not picking the same one as my number one, and it has got to be Cascadia. That game is an absolutely terrific game. We did a review on this a few months back. It's a game that you can teach to a new gamer in about 10 minutes. Have a wonderful game. The art is really pretty. It makes you feel like you're out there in the great outdoors. The rule set is simple, but there's an unlimited replayability on this based on the mechanisms of the game. And it's a game you can play in about, I don't know, 20 minutes, half hour. I think you can play a full game of this with 3 or 4 people. And I just think that's absolutely amazing. So I gotta say Cascadia.
So Chris, I'm going to skip in line and watch Tim's head explode and build on this because it is also my best game of 2021. I didn't get to play with you guys that night when you had that game night. I think I learned it a couple weeks later. We've talked about it. Tim taught it to myself and Danielle at Great Wolf Lodge, like while we sat in this ultra chlorinated air conditioning or heater or whatever it was. So at some point we should get online and play this game all together because that would be, I think it would be neat. But I'd be curious because everything that Chris just said, ditto. I don't need to say any of those things. It's a super awesome feeling in the brain, and it's just fun because most people that sit down to play it really enjoy it. So if you're aiming just to get somebody to play a game with you, and it's a really good game on top of that, they'll normally say yes, and then you get to play a really good game. So there's no real losers there. I listened to your review the other day of this game, and it was outstanding. Like, Tim, I really love this game. 45 minutes. He was struggling to see if he was going to buy this or Calico, and so now we know the answer because I believe Tim got this one for his birthday. Adam said he would absolutely request to play this game again, easy, under an hour. And Chris said that he thought that Calico was more accessible. So there's like kind of some of those things. I'm curious, where do we stand now? Like, now that the three of you have had some time to digest this, we know that Chris thinks it's the game of the year, but where does everybody else stand on Cascadia?
I'm going to skip line here and predict that this is not Tim's number one game, but, well, that's to be seen. My number game for 2021 was Ankh, Gods of Egypt. This game it's blown me away. I know you guys are a little less hot on this one than I am, but this game is amazing. It has a clean rule set, so many novel ideas in there. All these amazing little cases emerge from the gameplay that aren't fiddly, weird things that happen. They emerge because the rule set is designed that way. All these little nuanced things, and there's no ambiguity. You know exactly what it means and exactly the cool thing that you get to do that you just discovered that maybe nobody else knew about. There's so many times that happens in this game. And then I'm not even talking about the merger thing. If there's 4 people playing, probably the second, third, fourth player all have to be keeping an eye and almost working with each other, helping each other out so that nobody's too far behind while you're trying to track down that person in first place. It's such a cool game. So much more there that I want to explore. My number one game of 2021 is Ankh.
Adam, Ankh is a game that I liked a decent amount when I played it. And I think my only complaint about it was the length of play, but I think that is something that would probably shorten with a little bit more plays. And I was at my local game store the other day. I met another listener to play a game. Before I walked out, I wanted to go check what they had on the shelves, and they had Ankh and Ankh, one of the expansions for Ankh there, and I was seriously tempted to pick it up because I think the game is really cool. Everything that you said about it is absolutely right, and I think it's a fun experience I'd love to go back to and explore some more. So I think that's a pretty cool pick for 2021.
I put in my cart like a couple times and then like never followed through. It's been close. I've been very close to pulling the trigger on this, and I will get it eventually. It's amazing.
I'm going to throw this one into the same category as Windward and Tzolk'in, where it's one that after a first play, I wasn't quite sure what to make of it. There were definitely some things I didn't like about it, but there were some things I really did like about it. So I imagine, just like those other 2 games, another play or 2, and I'd really have an idea. I think I'd either really like it or I'd really dislike it. But I'm curious, Adam, do you think it makes a difference for the quality of the game if you've got the Kickstarter version with all the crazy pyramids and temples and the figures versus the standard issue retail version, which has a lot of cardboard shits and some cool figures as well, but I don't think it's anything like the same production?
Chris, it would make a difference for you for sure.
We want to know what Adam.
It depends on the person. So we played it online. Even online, without any of that stuff, I loved it. So just having it in person, yeah, it'd be a little disappointing not having the cool pyramid that was interactive and you put a little token in there and hold it for you. You know, having to use your imagination a little bit might have to be okay in this case. I don't think the gameplay is not going to suffer at all. Just the little tactileness and the visual cues. So still loving this one, Ankh.
Yeah. And one of the reasons I didn't buy it off the shelf is because there's another game that kind of cemented itself in my brain this year as a game that I think I probably will pick up, and that's Blood Rage. After my most recent play of Blood Rage, which every time I go back to it, I have fun with it. If I was going to own Dudes on a Map game, that's going to be the one that I have to pick up because every experience has been good. Never had a bad play of it. Ankh was great, and I'd love to go back to it, but I still think Blood Rage is a little bit better for me. All right, so Cascadia was my runner-up for this year, and it was my favorite game of 2021. It could have made a number of the items on this list. It could have made Biggest Surprise. I almost put it there because I didn't know what to expect from this little light, token drafting game, and it blew me away. It could have made Best Game of 2021, but I played a game the last week of 2021 that took this spot, that just stole it away from Cascadia. And it's part of it's probably because it's more of my length and type and like level of strategy of game. But I have to just shout out again to Cascadia for being a game that I still absolutely love. Blew my expectations away. You should try this game. You should buy this game. It's just a fun, easy game. You can get played with anybody. And I still have had I probably played 20 plays of it, and I'm still having a fun time every time it comes out. That said, my best game of 2021 is a little bit of a cheat because it's not available in the United States in 2021, but it was available in Europe, and that's Ark Nova. We got a chance to play this on Tabletop Simulator. There was an official mod released right before the end of the year. Capstone Games has pre-orders available, so we thought, hey, this was actually on my top 5 most want to play games list. Kind of got to my attention right before we made that episode, and so we played it the next week. And holy cow, did I love this game. This game takes all the elements of some of my favorite games and puts them together into a package that just really worked for me. It hit with me on every cylinder, and it added an element of a game that I'd never played before, which is that kind of 5-card selection choice, the 5-card river that you choose your actions from, and I loved that part of it. After one play, Ark Nova was my number 1 game of 2021, and by far the best game that was released in 2021 that I got to play. And I can't wait to play it more. In fact, I just hit Chris up, and we're going to try to get a game in early Saturday morning this weekend. So I'm hoping to get another game in this week. But yeah, Ark Nova, fantastic. Normally, I'm not one to pre-order games and pay full, MSRP price on it. I pre-ordered Ark Nova because I think this is going to be a game that sells out all year. And if I waited for it to come into retail, I'd probably wait till sometime next year. And I can't wait to get it to the table and play it some more. So Ark Nova was my number 1 game of 2021. And Adam, how was that for Olympic level of mediocre?
This game is cool, and it seems like one of your perfect games, Tim. Seems tailor-made for you. It's very much a Frankenstein of game mechanisms patched together with a nice, set of zookeeping clothing. So yeah, I had fun playing this one. I'd like to go back to it, but not as high for me as it was for you.
Cool. Well, we'll see what Chris thinks about it. Maybe he'll mention it in an upcoming episode after him and I get to play it this week. And Jen, sometime in June of this year, I'll have a physical copy of it, and hopefully I can get you and Daniel. It's building a zoo. We get to build a zoo. We get to make our own zoos with unique animals. It's awesome. It's so much fun.
Well, it's really interesting here because we've had a number of games that one of us has brought up that I think generally most everybody else had some of the same feels about. Not 100% maybe, but this is one where you had a really strong positive feeling, and I felt like Steve and Adam had a really strong mid to low feeling.
Steve didn't like this game, but he hates Terraforming Mars, so you can't take his judgment for anything. But
Chris, I don't want to tell you how this game's going to feel, but it's going to feel like Terraforming Mars with less interaction. So, yeah.
But with a zoo.
Spoiler alert.
And more bonuses.
Not to tell you that Darth Vader's Luke's father, but that's what's going to happen.
All right. Well, cool. So those were our favorite games from 2021. So one more question here. Well, I've got a couple more actually. What was the game that you played the most in 2021? So we heard about some of our favorite games, the biggest hits for us. What was the game that you played the most in 2021? If you track it, if you don't, just give me your gut feeling here. Chris, what game do you get to play the most this year?
Well, I do track it, and interestingly, I found that there were almost identical numbers in 2 different tiers. There was one tier of games that were very light, very quick games that I had roughly 35 to 40 plays of. And there was a tier of games that were the more heavyweight games, longer lasting games, more complex games that I had about 15 to 16 plays with over the course of the year. And since they were so clustered, I'll just give you the 2 tiers here. At the smaller tier, the 35 to 40 games tier, it was Welcome To and Azul, both of which I got a lot of plays out of because of BGA largely. but they're also just easy, quick games to play. And I bought a copy of, or actually I got as a gift a copy of Welcome To, and have played that a number of times in person. In the heavyweight tier, there was Tapestry, Lost Ruins of Arnak, and Terraforming Mars. The first two, again, thanks to BGA, and the third, thanks to the fact that my wife loves the game, and I love the game, so it's really easy to get that one to the table. Those are games that I was so thrilled to be able to play as many times as I did, and especially the lightweight games, really played quite a few, and I'm racking up those numbers even as we speak. So
yeah, Chris, I think there's one game you forgot to track this year, and that's Star Realms.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I also I didn't track Star Realms either, so it's not on my list, but I know that probably would have won if I'd actually been tracking it.
True. That's yeah.
We all have to be at like 500 playing on Star Realms.
Exactly.
Like, how many thousands of games have we played of that?
All right. Well, Adam, what about you? What was your most played game of this year?
Okay, so other than Star Realms, which if we're counting that, that's by far the number one. Next up is, I'm excited to say and happy to say, Dune Imperium with 11 plays. That was largely you and I, Tim, sometimes on these weekend nights, and Sarah would join us so many times. We'd have these epic games of Dune Imperium. Each time we had a series of you play this tiebreaker card and then get the final victory in the last moments of the game. Or we had that game where we were duking each other out. We kept going after this one spot, and Sarah was just kind of laughing at us as she stole the game from us while we just took each other out. There were so many amazing moments in this game. I had that strong deck built with all those sword cards at the end, and I only had like 7 cards, so I had one dude in the battle, and then I'd have 20 fight power, and I'd win every time. So many moments from this game. I'm glad it had 11 plays. Dune Imperium, what a great game. My most played of 2021.
I would have been very happy if that was my most played of 2021 as well, and I'm hoping with the expansion coming out soon that we'll get a chance to play that again soon. Maybe we'll even do a full review of it again with the expansion and kind of our double take on that one. That's awesome, Adam. Jen, what about you? Did you track your plays of board games this year, or do you have a rough idea of how many games you played?
I did not track my games this year, but I know that without a shadow of a doubt, my most played game of 2021 was Quacks of Quedlinburg. It fits all the family dynamics, the friend dynamics. It falls into all the, and I don't play online like you guys do, except this when we play online. And so I don't get the numbers that y'all do, but we played it online one time. Oh yeah, that's right. We played it that one time, and it was when what did we play it on broke, and then Steve somehow
the bag was busted, and like Steve got like 800 points.
Yeah,
somehow.
we're like, wow, Steve is the best player of this luck game that I've ever seen in my whole life. I love it. I don't think I'd ever seen a game like that before, and so the push your luck and the bag building components, it allows for a little bit of brain buzz, and it really, although, it allows for the connection and the socialization. And so I love the mans and, the dopamine hits when you get like exactly what you want to work and exactly what you need to come out of the bag. So I got it for my daughter for Christmas. And so she was really excited to open that box. She goes hard blue every time. So right now it's a very ritualized process. So I'm hoping to break her out of that box.
Do you switch out the cards so that the blue ones are not as great? You got to switch out the recipes.
I'm not ready to challenge her in that way, so I'm not sure what would happen considering how attached she is to the blue in that specific box or that specific book. I'm currently looking for the perfect component boxes, so if there are any listeners out there that have Quacks that like have something really unique or fun or different where they just pop it out of the box and it just works like magic, that would be great. We didn't get the upgraded components because I don't know if that's actually gonna last in our home for a really, really long time, but if you have something neat, I'd love to hear about it. Or see about it.
Yeah, Quacks is a cool game, and in fact, it was my number 2 played game of last year. I played 24 plays of Quacks of Quedlinburg. I try to count all my plays. I'm sure I missed a couple here, but I got a lot played in with Jen. It was a big hit with you when we first started playing together, but my wife loves it too, and we've introduced some other friends to it, so it's always been a big hit. It's a fun game. Happy to go back to it anytime. It's a good one.
Yeah, when we played it on the show, I don't think Steve hung around for the review, but both you and Adam said it was light and enjoyable, and you definitely played again. Tim and Adam, I know Tim feels that way, but Adam, do you feel that way now? Have you touched it since?
This one's kind of sinking down for me a little bit. I feel like it's draw some stuff out of the bag and hopefully it works out for you.
There's more to it than that, Adam.
And I don't know.
Yeah, maybe if Steve wasn't just a big old cheater, you would have had a better time.
I don't know, guys. I'm not seeing it. I'd go back to this one and try it again for sure. I don't have the love for it that's there for you guys, though.
Man, I haven't tried this one, and now I'm like Do I trust Jen and Tim? Do I trust Adam?
Hey, you don't have to put it like that. We can both be right.
I think this is a game that you and your wife, you and Rachel, and even Nathan would probably love. I honestly think this would be a huge hit for your family. So if you want to just kind of, take a shot in the dark and pick up a game just to surprise the family with, I think you guys would love it. And this is a great game for friends to play. It's pretty easy to teach, and it's just a blast every time, regardless of what Adam has to say about it.
Well, when you say you can get the family to play it, I mean, that's a huge selling point.
It is. Yep. That's one of the reasons why it was my second most played game of the year. So my number one played game of this year was Lost Ruins of Arnak. Part of that was Board Game Arena, of course. It came out there recently, and I've gotten Chris playing it with me, and my friend Mike from high school has been playing it with me a little bit. This was a game that surprised me. The first couple times I played it, I enjoyed it a lot, but I was like, this is a solo game, maybe a two-player game. And you can hear that on the review with it. I liked it, but I thought I'd mostly be playing it solo. And I did play it a lot solo, and it's great solo because you can knock out this kind of epic feeling resource management game in about 20-30 minutes, and it's really fun, and reset it up again. But then I introduced it to my wife, and she loves it, and we've been playing it a ton together. 2-player, we played it with Jen a bit. 3-player. This game's gotten a lot of play in our household. I do think after the 31 plays I've had of it, the Ark is kind of redundant a little bit. Like, you're kind of going through the same process. But there is an expansion that just came out. It has been delivered to me, and I will have it in my house in about 2 days. This is is it called Leaders or something like that? I don't remember what the expansion is called, but basically it adds variable player powers and kind of unique starting decks for all of the players. It adds new temple tracks, as well as some additional cards to add to the various decks. So I'm excited to get that into the rotation and kind of mix it up a little bit and see how that makes the game feel a little bit different. But yeah, this is just a great, fun, thematic resource management game that I'm happy to go back to anytime. So it's gotten a ton of plays for me this year. And, this was a 2021 game. I think because the Ark has gotten a little tired, I wouldn't have called it my best game of, even if this was released in 2021, I don't think it would have been on my 2021 best game list, but I still love it.
So is this a 2020 game or 2020?
Yeah, it came out late 2020.
Okay.
It came out about the same time Dune Imperium did, which was like November, December of 2020. So we didn't play it till 2021, but that's why it didn't make my other categories. I would have had to mention this one somewhere if it didn't make my most played games, because it is a game that brought me a lot of fun, a lot of joy this year, and I'm still having fun with it. That kind of wraps up the specific games we want to talk about. We got one more question for you all, though. Did you have any big board game revelations this year? We've been playing a lot of board games as we're hosting this show, as we're getting together and playing and discovering new groups to play with. Anything that really stood out to you as something that was unique to you in this hobby this year, something that kind of changed the hobby for you?
For me, there was really sort of 3 big stories that defined 2021 in my gaming career. One of them was the fact that I'm actually enjoying resource management games way more than I previously had. Before, I was all big minis, meeples on a map, that kind of thing. I've definitely branched out, and I'm enjoying resource management way more than I had previously. And I imagine a lot of that is because many of the games that we play are like that, largely because Tim brings those to the table a lot.
And because they're awesome.
Some of them are awesome. So my second is solo gaming. That was one where prior to our episode on solo gaming, I'd never played a solo game, nor did I ever want to play a solo game. But we talked about it, and I the conversation convinced me it was worth a shot. I should give this a try. And now I've learned that it fits so well with some of the things that I like about gaming. All the big production lends itself well to these solo adventure games. Awakened Realms makes a lot of the ones of that style that I'm thinking about. That's been great fun, and so I've played a number of them and had a great time doing it. And I want to play more. Unfortunately, I don't have enough time to play the ones I have, so I have all this long list, to-do list of these solo games with the huge minis that I want to keep playing. There's only so many hours in a day. And the third, probably the most impactful one, like the big story for 2021 for me, has got to be Board Game Arena. It has changed the way that I game so much, because it's got all these terrific games. It's not just, the light little app type games like, Star Realms, but it has all these great games with an easy to use interface, rules enforcement, and it's so easy to get into them and keep a game going with the asynchronous play. And part of me thinks, how did I not know about this sooner? Because it's not that it's that new. It's not like BGA started in 2021. how did I not know about this earlier, and how did I not get started on it earlier? In fact, I can't even remember how I got introduced to it this year. I mean, do you guys remember how I know we all started doing it at the same time.
I signed up for it when we first played. What's that? Chris, sorry, Adam, you introduced us to a game about kind of exploring the world. What was that called?
Trekking the World?
Yeah, Trekking the World. Yeah. So that was the first time when Adam wanted to try Trekking the World. And I think that was sometime last year that we played it. I signed up for a subscription, and it was I actually used that for team building with some of my team at work a couple times, because it was way easier to do online gaming with them and get that together with people that don't game a lot, rather than we had tried Tabletopia, and that was a mess. BGA was great for that. So I kind of kept my subscription open, but we weren't really going back there a lot. And I think it's really just that a lot of great new titles started to show up this year, so we started revisiting it. So, Adam, Chris, I don't remember which game that we decided to pull you into there, but I know we did Lost Ruins of Arnak earlier this year, Adam. That was probably one of the first times we got back into it.
Yeah, so Board Game Arena, I played a lot of Race for the Galaxy back in the day, and Board Game Arena was one of the earliest adapters of that, and to be able to play other people across the globe with this specific game. So, I don't know, I signed up 2014, 2015 or something like that, and I've had an account maybe earlier than that, maybe like 07 or 08 or something like that, because I remember long ago being on this site, and then I'd kind of gone back to it every once in a while, and it'd been a little dormant. But yeah, it really blew up this year with all the great additions. Beyond the Sun is on there, such a great game, and Lost Ruins of Arnak, and I've heard rumors of all these great games coming soon. Blood Rage is coming soon. How amazing is that? So what a great forum, and that's a great list, Chris.
Yeah, it is, Chris. Yeah, Tapestry's on there, and Gaia Project. Yeah, A Feast for Odin. A Feast for Odin just got on there. Like, such a great list. But Chris, that's an awesome list that you listed. You know, solo gaming, that's fun. That's awesome. You got to experience that. I've had a lot of fun with it, and you know, it's a nice way to get into the hobby when you don't have other people around. And Board Game Arena has been awesome because, you know, in the last few years, a couple times a day, I could expect to get a little ping on my phone that said, Chris challenged you to a duel at Star Realms. And that's great. It's fun to get a little link with your friend and a little competition going. And now I'm getting like, Chris just challenged you to a game of Gaia Project, or Chris just challenged you to a game of Tzolk'in, the Mayan calendar, or Tapestry. And these are games that I just love, that I am now getting to play with my friends, you know, all over the world on a regular basis. So yeah, thank you, BGA. Awesome. Adam, what about you? Any board game revelations for this year? Anything that kind of changed your mindset with gaming?
I have a few. Mine's a bit of a list like Chris's, but dissimilar. So one of my favorite parts of this year has been watching the growth of us as a group and individuals and the different type of games we're playing. Chris mentioned it. He's moving towards resource management and enjoying them and having a good time. He pushed Keyflower on us, and that game's great. Tim, I think in a podcast episode, you said you enjoy games with interaction. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, that couldn't be.
You did, and I'll talk more about that in a minute.
And if it was even stronger than that, I think you said you came to appreciate and almost strive for games that have some interaction, something like that. Maybe I'm taking it too far. I don't want to speak for you. And then Jen, watching you just get so much more into games with us too has been fantastic. You've gone from, what was it? Early on it was Azul, and then Castles of Burgundy, whooping everybody at Castles of Burgundy. And then now you're just trying this, trying that, introducing these Camel Up. I want to try all these games you're talking about. So I love what you bring. And along those lines, the growth of this podcast itself, it started as a kind of creative thing. We didn't know if we'd be doing it this long. We did it all through 2021. It's been so fun to be a part of every single week for the most part, and get together and talk and have people that enjoy listening to us talk. That's been really neat too. And as a creative endeavor, it's just been a blast. So those are my things of 2021. Oh, one more thing. This is going to be kind of a downer. I should have put it in the middle. I should have gone plus minus plus, but I'm ruining the format here. I have been appreciating games more that have less and less plastic. Plastic is everywhere. It's all over the planet. As board gamers, we are not a solution to that problem in this realm. Dune Imperium. I love games that have just basic components that can get it done with as little plastic as possible. So that game's great. But having said that, I bought the big box of plastic. I didn't even need that. I feel so guilty about that purchase. So I have all these miniatures now. It's going to make the game look cool. I get it. It makes the game look cool. But do I need them? It's such a tough one. So I'm going to try to push myself to buy stuff with less plastic in it.
That's a noble goal, Adam. I appreciate that. And also thank you for the nice thoughts on the podcast. I'm so proud that we managed to put out an episode, like for a full year now, over 52 episodes. We released an episode every single week, 2 episodes a couple times. It's been a blast with you guys. This is still like the highlight of my week, getting together. Now it's Tuesday night, playing a game, recording an episode, and I love it. I love when you guys put together this amazing edit of a podcast and give me the final product, and getting to listen to that is like the second highlight of my week, getting to actually like hear how the episode turned out. So absolutely love doing that with you guys. Jen, any board game revelations for you this year?
I mean, there's no revelations. I like board games for the social aspects. It's really important to me. It's a huge draw for me as an enthusiast, and interacting with people on this level is really fun, and having that common bond, that common passion, that common excitement. It just creates a really unique game experience. And so I love that we get to do it. When I say, in person, the social aspect, 100% this is happening right now, right? When we do this online, and also when I get to do it in person. The dopamine hits, the strategy are one thing, but the social interaction and the dopamine hits that come from the social interaction are equally as important. And so I really like that board gaming has really allowed me to connect with people in a way that just feels more significant sometimes. It's funny because we played a game last night. We played, what did we play last night?
Castles of Tuscany.
Yeah, we got one of the 2020 games off my list last night. So that was really exciting. And it was funny because it was such a fast-paced game, I didn't see that coming at all, that we didn't have time to talk. And so what did I say? Like 3/4 of the way through, I was like, I don't know if I can play this again. Because I could not finish a thought or like a story or like absorb anything that anyone else was saying, because it went so fast that we couldn't do that. So it has to be light enough that we can keep talking over the action, or the turns have to be significant enough so that interaction can keep going. And that was something that I learned. And so it's possible that even though I kind of enjoyed Castles of Tuscany, but we can talk about that later, I don't know if I would pick it when I need that social hit.
And Jen, that kind of leads into one of my board game revelations this year, and that that I'm kind of the heavy resource management guy, multiplayer solitaire. Like those are my favorite types of games, or have been in the past. But I definitely learned this year that the most fun time I have with my friends playing board games is when there's more interaction at the table, when there's more opportunity to kind of interact with people. And listen, it doesn't make those my favorite games, but it makes them my favorite experiences. And I'm more than happy to sacrifice a little bit of the thinky puzzle that I really want in a game for the fun of experiencing it with my friends and seeing everybody else having fun around the table, and the laughter that we're getting out of it. And I've definitely learned that. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop asking for some heavy Euros, because I still like them. I still want to play them with you guys, but I am recognizing that sometimes though, that's not going to create the best experience for everybody. And even I am having a lot more fun sometimes with lighter games, with shorter games, with games where there's just more interaction happening. And so that definitely was a big revelation for me of what really makes board games fun. So
did that revelation or revolution come to you before or after the now infamous Azul and what was the other game?
Welcome to
night.
Yeah, Welcome to. Yes, it did come to me before that. It probably came to me the most at TimCon, where I recognized after we played about 20 games that weekend, the most fun we were having were the lighter, simpler games. Even though I wanted to bring out another heavy game, it either led to just more quietness around the table, or more, less interaction, or even sometimes frustration. But when it was just a light game, it didn't matter who was winning. It didn't matter who was losing. People were just having fun. It created a more fun experience in those situations. So again, don't take this as the promise that I'm not going to ask for some heavy Euros or for midweight Euros in the future, because I still want to play those games. I still love those games, but I do recognize how much fun those games are. The one last revelation I have is something that I've talked about in the past, and I just want to say that this year reinforced it for me, and that is that crowdfunding games is a bad idea. I really wanted Merchants of the Dark Road because it looked like a cool game. But guess what? It's not a cool game. It's a sucky game. So was Windward. So were many other games that we got a chance to play. You got a best at 50-50 chance of actually getting a game you want if you back it on Kickstarter or crowdfund it. So that's bad odds, and we don't need all that junky plastic around our planet. We don't need all of those extra boxes in our house to burn down our house if a fire starts. We don't need crowdfunded games. That's my experience. I'm actually going for a 0 crowdfunding this year with my own purchases. I don't care what game it is. I'm going to wait till it comes out to retail if I think it's good enough. That's a revelation for me. That just expands on my past knowledge and understanding. Chris, you're shaking your head. You disagree? You think that you still think that that's the way to go to build your board game collection?
Chris is not just shaking some head. There are some dramatic convulsions coming from Chris's corner
There is.
of the screen here. I really want to hear what Chris has to say.
No, Tim, I completely agree with everything you just said.
That's not right.
I think, well, I can't speak for Adam, but I can speak for me, and we've both made similar comments, that part of what's fun about Kickstarter is it's the experience. The experience itself has a draw to it. Seeing a game develop, seeing the updates and the development of the game over time and the stretch goals and all that. And sometimes the opportunity to have a game with a designer that doesn't have an opportunity to, doesn't have a big company like CMON does it. And I mean, I kind of wonder, like, why does CMON do that all the time? But not everybody is CMON. Not everybody can just go out and publish their own games. They have to go through some kind of a process like Kickstarter to get something out there. And there's actually, there's one I want to talk about next week when we're talking about our future takes that is a great example of that. But I won't say it now because I don't want to have any spoilers. But I still think that is a great way for a good ideas to get out there into the world. And not everyone is going to, it's like any experiment. Not everyone is going to be a success. But if you enjoy the process and you get, better than average odds of having a decent game, man, I say do it. I like it. I just like it.
I don't think it's better than average odds, first of all. And second of all, every idea shouldn't belong in the world. But fair enough. It does give some creators the opportunity to do something that might be unique, might not be, might be too original. Also, it might suck though. So, you're rolling the dice.
I think it's a beautiful concept. People have fear of missing out, FOMO. And so, again, it comes back to being able to get it in front of people. And the only people that are probably upset about it are the people that, in the end, it doesn't come to them, or they spent too much money, or because I remember listening to you guys talk about your Kickstarters, like it was a problem. Like there was a 12-step group for what was going on. And so there is a 12-step group. And it started by, I wonder who he's pointing at. He's pointing at the screen, but I don't have reference for that. So who's scouting? So I don't know. I mean, the concept is genius and FOMO is real.
Everyone's making good points here. There's problems with it and there's good things with it. I like it that it's in the hands of the people. If you see a game, you want to support it, you go and support it. Otherwise, you don't have to put your money there if you don't want to. I love that concept, and I've been suckered into a few of these games. Yes, I wasted some money on some bad ones, but that was my choice. Was I duped into it because of marketing that I can't control? Maybe. Oh well. I'm not beyond that. But I like that it's there. It's an option. I want to throw out GameFound is another alternative, a good alternative to Kickstarter that is hopefully going to gain more prominence. Or hopefully not if you're Tim, but it's an alternative to Kickstarter. So take a look there too if you want to support hopefully some smaller artists that need to get discovered and have great ideas, and you can decide if you think it's a great idea. Put your money towards it if you want to. If not, then don't. That's kind of how I look at it.
Well said.
Well, that was my revelation, and you guys don't have to share it. Thanks for chatting with me about 2021. It was a fun year gaming with you guys. I think I played more games this year than I ever have in my life, and more interesting games. I think we've explored a lot of fun stuff, so had a great time this year. All right, well, I think that'll wrap us up. Thanks everyone for listening. Come back next year at 2022 and we'll give you our thoughts on the best of 2022 in a year from now. You don't have to listen for the next 51 episodes, just come back then. Until next week, take care everybody.
Here's to another good year.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening.